Welcome to latest News Blaster. If you want daily real celebrity news, subscribe now. Artists keep leaving Birdman, the pattern no one talks about. For decades, Birdman, also known as Brian "Baby" Williams, has been one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop. As the co-founder of Cash Money Records, he helped launch careers that defined entire generations of rap music. From chart-topping hits to cultural dominance, Birdman's influence is undeniable. But behind the success stories, a quieter narrative has followed him for years, one that many industry insiders acknowledge privately but rarely discuss publicly. Why do so many artists eventually leave Birdman? Not with celebration, not with gratitude, but with lawsuits, silence, or strained relationships. This pattern has repeated so often that it's no longer coincidence, it's a trend. And today, more people are finally willing to look at it closely. A label that built stars and lost them. Cash Money Records wasn't just a label, it was an empire. At its peak, it dominated radio, clubs, and charts simultaneously. Birdman positioned himself as both mentor and father figure to many of his artists, famously referring to them as family. But over time, that family kept breaking apart. Nearly every major artist associated with Birdman eventually distanced themselves, some quietly, others publicly. The exits weren't random. They followed a pattern that insiders say was impossible to ignore. The break that changed everything. No relationship defines this conversation more than Birdman and Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne was discovered as a child and raised within the Cash Money system. For years, he publicly praised Birdman as a father figure. Their bond seemed unbreakable. Then everything collapsed. Wayne accused Cash Money of withholding tens of millions of dollars in royalties and filed a lawsuit that stunned the music industry. The legal battle dragged on for years, freezing releases and damaging reputations. What shocked insiders wasn't just the lawsuit, it was how quickly other artists began speaking up or stepping away afterward. Wayne's case cracked the image of unity. It showed that even the most loyal artist could reach a breaking point. It wasn't about respect anymore. Juvenile was one of Cash Money's earliest superstars. His album, 400 Degrees, helped define Southern rap and cement the label's dominance. Yet Juvenile left at the height of his success. In later interviews, he described financial disputes and lack of transparency as key reasons for his departure. While careful with his words, the message was clear. The business relationship had become strained. Years later, Juvenile briefly returned, only to leave again. Industry observers saw this as confirmation of a deeper issue. Problems were never fully resolved, only paused. Legal trouble and distance. Other Hot Boys members, Turk and BG, also experienced fractured relationships with Birdman. Legal troubles, incarceration, and contractual disputes complicated their careers. While Birdman occasionally expressed public support, their professional paths drifted far from Cash Money. Behind the scenes, insiders say communication broke down long before the public noticed. When artists return from hardship, they often expect loyalty to be reciprocated. In these cases, many felt that didn't happen. The quiet exit. Unlike others, Nicki Minaj never attacked Birdman publicly, but her exit was just as telling. Nicki rose under Young Money, a Cash Money imprint, and became one of the biggest stars in music history. Yet as her career grew, her public association with Birdman noticeably faded. There were no lawsuits, no interviews exposing drama, just distance. Industry analysts note that Nicki became more independent, more selective, and less publicly connected to Cash Money's leadership. Sometimes silence says more than accusations. Another sudden departure. Tyga's relationship with Cash Money followed a familiar trajectory. Early success, public praise, then frustration. Tyga openly complained about delayed releases and contractual restrictions, eventually leaving the label entirely. His exit mirrored earlier departures, artists feeling blocked rather than supported. What stood out was how similar his complaints sounded to those made years earlier by others. Different artists, same issues. The pattern industry insiders whisper about. When music executives discuss Birdman privately, certain themes come up again and again. Control over contracts, delayed payments, creative restriction, difficulty exiting agreements, silence instead of resolution. No single complaint proves wrongdoing. But the consistency of these grievances across decades raises serious questions. One former executive described it bluntly. It always starts as loyalty. It always ends in frustration. Why many artists stay quiet. Perhaps the most unsettling part of this story isn't who left, but who didn't speak. Many former Cash Money artists avoid interviews about their time under Birdman. Others choose vague language, careful not to assign blame. Why? Industry insiders point to 3 reasons: fear of burning bridges, legal restriction, unspoken power dynamic. Birdman's influence extended far beyond his own label. For years, he controlled distribution deals, partnerships, and industry relationships that could make or break careers. Speaking out wasn't just risky, it could be career-ending. The culture of silence. Hip-hop often celebrates loyalty, resilience, and respect. Publicly criticizing a mentor can be viewed as betrayal, regardless of circumstances. This cultural pressure kept many artists quiet, even when disputes became public knowledge. But silence doesn't erase patterns, it only delays scrutiny. Why this conversation is growing now. So why is this topic resurfacing today? Because the industry has changed. Artists now own their masters, build independent platforms, speak directly to fans. The power imbalance that once protected industry giants is weakening. Younger artists ask questions older generations were afraid to, and once a pattern is seen clearly, it can't be unseen. Birdman's legacy, complicated, not simple. To be clear, Birdman's impact on hip-hop is historic. Without him, many legendary careers might never have existed. But legacy isn't just about who you launch,